Go.
All right, class. Today we're going to be looking at isotopic pennies, okay, for the lab. And pre-1982 pennies were made of just copper, and post-1982 pennies have zinc inside because copper started to become more expensive than what the penny was worth. And so what happened was, and how this relates back to our isotopes, is that chemists weren't able to identify different isotopes just by simply looking at the sample of matter. So what they had to do is they had to look at the mass of the sample, and then without being able to look at the individual atoms themselves, they had to mathematically determine the distribution of the different isotopes. And because isotopes have a weighted percentage of abundance in the universe, they had to look at how many of each type there were by using some relatively simple algebra, okay? And so here we're gonna have an analogy. We have 6 different containers with different amounts of pre-1982 and post-1982 pennies. And so depending on your last name is gonna depend on which container and which set of data you're going to use. But first we need to know how much pre-1982 penny and a post-1982 penny has for its mass. So here we have a pre-1982 penny, a 1980 penny, and we have a 3.10 gram mass. And then we have a 2007 penny, a post-1982 penny, that has a mass of 2.49 grams, okay? And so based off of that information, you guys will be using the formula at the bottom of the lab sheet in order to calculate the number of pre- and post-1982 pennies inside of the containers. Okay, so if your last name starts with A to letter D, you are going to have container 99A. And 99A has a mass of 60.88 grams. If your last name is between...
Don't you have to dump it out? You need the mass of the container.
Oh, let's get the mass of the container for 99A. That is 5.70 grams. Last name's E to H. So last name's E to H. You guys are going to have container 96. The container with the pennies weighs 60.86 grams. And the container on its own has a mass of 7.21 grams. Nope, 2 grams. Nope, 2.1. A little airflow is changing that last digit on this balance. If your last name is between letters I and M, you're going to have container 15. Okay, the container and the pennies weighs 59.45 grams, and the container without the pennies in it has a mass of 6.99 grams. Last names between the letters N and R in the alphabet, you guys are going to be container 18. The container has a mass of 62.0 grams with the pennies in it. And without the pennies, the container has a mass of 7.31 grams. Last names between the letters S and V. You guys have 77A. And the container with the pennies has a mass of 59.69 grams. And without the pennies, it has a mass of 5.51 grams. And those of you always at the end of the alphabet that are always last, here you are, W to Z, you have container 12A. The container and the pennies have a mass of 58.53 grams. And the container itself, without the pennies, is 7.45 grams. So again, each container has 20 pennies. There's a formula at the bottom of the lab sheet that will allow you guys to calculate the number of pre-1982 pennies without actually physically counting and looking at it. So if you need help, please ask for some help either during class or during RTI time. Thanks.